What's happening? Tim with Nomad Trading. Oh, going to talk to you about my red day. Had a red day today in the stock market. I think I've had like 5 or 6 green days in a row of making my goal of $100 a day. But today, red on the day. Lost a little money, but that's why managing losses is important. So that way, when you have a red day, it's a manageable red day, not a red day that wipes out your previous 5 or 6 days of gains. That's where day traders really lose money when they're starting out, is by having huge red days that wipe out all their green days. So I'm going to show you my trade recaps on NVUS and Pstv, Nkla, just several stocks that are hot today, and the trades that I took, and how I ended up red. So let's jump into that. Here we are inside my computer. First, we'll look at Pstv. This was the stock I was green on, just to show you that I'm not making this up. There's my P&L for the day. Nothing exciting, but negative $64 on the day. Started out the day in the green, was looking good, but then I ended up losing money on NVUS. So I'll show you what I did wrong. But just so you know, I'm not making this up. I actually do trade the stock market, although I trade with small size, and although I am not a guru at it or amazing at it, it's more of a hobby. But I do trade almost every day, unless there's just no trades to be had. Anyway, so started out the day with Pstv, was looking good. Saw the stock dip down. It came out of the gate real hot this morning, pre-market, then faded. Because it had dropped so big and faded, and then faded more here into the open, and at open it didn't really do much, so I thought, hey, this is going to be a decent short if it'll pop. So it did. It popped up and tested where VWAP and the 200 moving average were almost in the same place. So I thought that's a great place to take a short position, and I did. The only thing I did wrong on this was playing it way too conservative. I should have took a lot more size. I only took like 250 shares, so I captured 20 cents. It failed to break through VWAP in the 200, so that failed. That move failed. It was perfect short setup. Everything was great on it, and I did make 20 cents a share or something like that. But I only had 250 shares, so where I went wrong was I should have had more conviction in it. I had seen that it was coming up to this level of resistance, and it was coming up on VWAP in the 200. Everything about it was perfect. I should have, there's no way around. I should have took at least a couple thousand shares short, or at the very least 1,000 shares short. I could have very easily taken 1,000 shares on that and made $200, and then I would have ended green on the day. But instead, took a small, scared little girl position here. I was just, I don't know why I didn't have more conviction, but that's where confidence and whatnot comes into play. Didn't have the confidence for whatever reason in myself. So tiny position and made money, but not enough money. Then we come to NVUS, and on this one I played it bigger, having seen that everything worked out well this morning. I had the same idea, but thought this time I'm going to play it bigger. So I had seen right here it was coming up to VWAP and having trouble. You got the consolidation over here. You got the high over here after hours yesterday. So it just seemed like, hey, this is a great place to short it. And I did, and that was going great. Then I had to take my kids to go get some books at the school. We're doing the virtual learning thing, and I had to go pick up a couple of their school books that for some reason they don't have yet. Anyway, so since I wasn't going to be able to watch it, I put a stop loss on at I think 118 or so, because I thought if it curls back up, it would, at this point, we were down in this range, and I thought this is great. So I'm going to set my stop loss way up here and be fine, and hopefully it's going to fade the rest of the day and close weak, and I'll come back and get out of it after hours, have a nice big profit. But just on the safe side, set my stop loss on CMEG up here to where it would have to cross through the 200, then cross through VWAP, then break this double top here, and go all the way beyond the previous high on this candle here and go all the way to 118. So you guessed it, it did that. While I was gone with my kids doing the damn books, of course, it breaks through the 200 and it breaks through VWAP. And it breaks past that. I get stopped out. And then what's it do? It fades all the way back through VWAP, back through the 200, all the way back down here below $1. So, yeah. Not real excited about that. Not going to lie, I was pretty pissed off about it. Just because, I don't know. The odds are not usually typically, and this is why I would, I was kind of kicking myself because I keep thinking this is why I don't typically trade these stocks that are around $1 or under $1. Like this one yesterday was at 39 cents, and the action on it and everything, and this stock being just right at $1 or barely above $1. That's why for whatever reason the patterns just don't seem to hold true. And I mean sometimes they do. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. It just seems like I find myself losing money because the stock does something that you don't see as often. For instance, this thing had already shown that it was weak pre-market. Then it does pop up, which is great, but then it shows how weak it is. It comes all the way back through the VWAP and the 200. And then it has trouble with VWAP here, so it comes back down. So we're going into afternoon, typically volume fading and whatnot. So it was getting close to power hour, when this happened. I'm sure it very well could have been a short squeeze. I don't know, but all I know is it upset me because I thought there's no way. When I set that stop loss, I thought, worst case scenario, I'm going to come back and it's going to be somewhere along the 200 and I'll still be in the green, making money on that on top of my $56 or whatever I made on the other trade. So I kind of figured, hey, I'll be on track for my $100 day. Did not think that I would come back home and have it for whatever reason gone on a tear. And also I was watching the level 2, and kind of like right now where you're seeing a level 2, you got 26,000 shares here at $1.04, and then light volume on the bid. That's how it was the whole time that I was watching it when I was getting short. It was just piles and piles over here on the ask. 20,000, 30,000, 100,000, 200,000 I saw at one point. I think it was at like $1.07 or something. So to me it seemed extremely unlikely that it was going to overcome all the pressure, all the walls that we were seeing on the ask, and break the 200 and break VWAP and come all the way up here and break this high. It just didn't seem possible, but yet here we are. It happened. So you never know with the stock market. You can try to predict it all you want, but you never know. And had I been here, I would have probably went ahead and cut it here. I don't know. But that's why we have stop losses. When I set stop losses, I try to make them to where they're beyond where I think the stock will go. So that way, there's been many times that I've set my stop, for instance, just on the other side of VWAP, and the stock will perk through if I'm short. I'm talking about if I'm short. The stock will perk through, stop me out, then drop like a rock. And I think that market makers do that on purpose sometimes. I've had it happen on the long side too, where I set my stop loss, underneath VWAP, and the stock just pops through it for a second and stops me out, pops up, and then just keeps running. It just seems like it happens a lot. So I try to set my stops beyond where I think it can possibly go. So not right here at the double top, not just on the other side of VWAP, but beyond the high, the previous high here. So it's going to have to show some major strength to get through the 200 and VWAP and make past the double top, the resistance here, and a new high. Somehow it did that. I don't know how, but anyway, I set my stops at a level where I don't think that I'm going to get stopped out unless it's a worst case scenario and there's news or something comes out and it just rips up. And then in that case, I want to be safe and be able to get out. But the idea is that it doesn't get to that level. And if I'm risking too much, this is where risk management comes into play, and size, the size that you're taking. You know, if I took too big a size here, at that point when I took this trade, I was up to $56. I took a 1,000 share short, which is not big by any means on a dollar stock. So very manageable loss. Did end up red on the day, but losing $64 when you've had 5, 6, whatever $100 red and green days in a row, excuse me. I can feel okay with that. I traded my plan. There's no way to account for the situation where the stock just rips way up and goes against what you think it can do. But sometimes that happens. That's why we set stops. There's no way to know if this would have, my thinking was, if it did by some miracle rip through all that, at that point, you don't know how high it can go. It could go all the way up here and test the high of day in the 130s. Could keep going beyond that, and with the kind of volume it had today, trading 183 million shares, and being up that much on the day, you just never know. So I didn't want to be coming back home and be looking at the stock up at $2 and I'm down, $1,000. So that's why we take small size. I'm always calculating my size. I recommend having a calculator down there, and you can do it a couple of different ways. You can try to place the trade and put too big a size, and then try to place a trade. And on a lot of brokers' sites, platforms, it'll tell you you don't have enough to do that, but you can place a trade for such and such amount of shares, and it'll kind of tell you right off the bat. But also, I use a calculator so that way I know when I'm setting my stop that I'm risking, if somehow this rips up through here, okay, I'm going to be losing $500. Well, I don't want to wipe out a whole week of my $100 goal of green days with one trade. So if I'm looking at that and that's risking $500 at my stop, then I'm sizing way down before I ever even take the trade. So that way, worst case scenario, I'm only losing what my goal is. $100 a day is my goal in the green. So I try not to risk more than $100 on a loss. And if I get down more than $100 between my two accounts, then I typically will just stop trading for the day, because a lot of the times if I'm having a bad day or having a red day, I'm trying to get it back, end up losing more money. So anyway, long story short, the point is make sure you're managing your risk. And make sure your red days don't wipe out all your green days, because it seems obvious, but that's where a lot of traders get into trouble. That's where it can very quickly go from a series of green days and then one gigantic red trade that you just get stubborn and hold wipes it all out. So don't do that. Set stops and change your position size, manage your risk. This is one I was mad at myself for also. This is just one of those days, and I'm gonna keep going and telling you why today is one of those days. I started out green, then I had that loss. Then also I was watching this all day, MRNS, watching this all day, watching it trend up, but I'd seen all these big drops, these big red drops. Then if I looked at the daily chart, and I could see that, maybe I got to go out farther. Yeah, I was looking at the tops of these candles, and if you go out even farther, I think I could be mistaken. I haven't looked at this afternoon. Yeah, so if you go out 2 years, you see that there's tons and tons of consolidation and resistance in the fours, basically anything over 3, and then in the fours. So I'm thinking, hey, this thing's got a ceiling on it for the most part. And then if you look at even more recently, I was looking at these tops here at 350. So I'm watching the stock and I'm seeing it drop it open. It recovers, it rips up, okay, kind of strong, but big red drop back. And every time it would go up, it would have big red drops. And we've talked about before how I'm trying to be a little bit more a better short seller. So when I'm seeing that, that's kind of one of the things that flags me that, hey, this thing's probably not going to just keep ripping up because it's heavy. What I call heavy anyway. On level 2, and when you look at the chart, it looks heavy. When it pops up, it has a tendency to lose almost that entire gain. So I'm watching it on that trend line, and right here, I almost shorted it, and I thought, you know, this would be perfect. It's just under $4. There's tons of resistance up in that $4 range. If you look at long-term resistance, this is going to be a perfect short. I didn't pull the trigger. So I think I had like 500 shares queued up to short. And I'm like, you know, this is going to be perfect. It's going to be $500, going to end up dropping and fading. But I didn't pull the trigger, and that's where confidence comes in. Didn't pull the trigger, and then literally like the next minute or two, the thing drops all the way to VWAP, and I'm just sitting there like, oh, that was it. That was my chance. That was my spot. And at that point, I'm thinking, you know, I'm not going to get short now because now it's at VWAP, and I'm not going to chase it. You got the RSI down here looking oversold. Not going to chase it all the way down here and start shorting it at the possibility of support at VWAP in the 200. So ended up just looking away. I could have shorted it when it popped back up over here. Anyway, just kicking myself on that. Then we go to Nkla, Nkla. This thing before I left, I took a very small position, like 50 shares on it. And I did set a stop, but my goal on this was to swing trade it. Mind you, at this time, it was in the 33 range, so it was the candle was pretty much a doji. And this is a GM play. GM invested $2 billion. In my opinion, it just doesn't seem logical that GM would invest in this company $2 billion without doing a lot of due diligence and knowing exactly what they were getting into. So that seemed like a pretty good setup. It was really beaten down because a big short seller had come out and accused them of putting out false claims, basically breaking the law. And then several other news sources had jumped on that same news. So it was getting super beaten down after a nice green day. My thinking was, hey, it's at $33. It's kind of a doji. I believe that it just doesn't seem logical that GM would be investing $2 billion without doing due diligence. So this thing's likely to pop back up and maybe test the 200 at least up here near $40. So took 50 shares on it on a swing, and then set my stop loss down here. I think I said it's, I'll have to go back and look, but I set my stop loss somewhere down here, not that low. It was probably like $31 or something. I didn't want to lose a bunch of money on it, so I set a stop loss that was fairly tight. Anyway, again, I was off getting the books with my kids, so I had my stop loss set just in case some news or something comes out. Well, it does, but it was after hours, so the drop came after hours. Stop losses don't work after hours, so of course did not get stopped out, and it just kept dropping. And the news is that the Department of Justice, the DOJ, is investigating them now, so of course that's looked at badly. Again, my gut feeling tells me that GM would have done their due diligence, but you never know. Maybe GM's got a bunch of idiots that are doing their mergers and acquisitions investments portfolio, and they're just not doing any research and development, just throwing $2 billion out willy-nilly. No idea. We'll have to see what happens. But yeah, I would have stopped out, and I didn't. So I'm still currently holding that, debating on whether or not I want to get out of the trade after hours or not, since if there's no news and nothing comes out to combat this news, if Nkla or GM, nobody comes out and says anything positive, it very likely will drop tomorrow morning as well. And also if GM pulls out of the deal because they don't like the bad press or whatever, or maybe they didn't do their due diligence. If GM pulls out, then again, it's going to tank the stock. So don't want to take a small swing trade position and turn it into a big freaking loss just because I'm stubborn with it or believe that it doesn't seem possible for GM to be that stupid. But at the same time, yeah, you never know. So currently holding it, have not cut it yet. I'll make the decision here shortly on whether or not I'm just going to cut it or hold it overnight. Everybody that watches my video knows that I rarely hold overnight, almost never hold overnight because of the risks of the after hours and news coming out and stuff. Exactly what happened here. So it's kind of fitting that I broke my rule of almost never holding overnight. But my thinking was I've been trading a lot in my CMEG account and letting my E-Trade account sit here more. Yesterday, I think I made like $30 in my E-Trade account. But for the most part, I've just been trading with CMEG more and letting E-Trade sit here. And so I thought, hey, I'll take the E-Trade and use that to maybe make a few swing trades while I day trade the CMEG account more. And of course, the very first one I tried to swing trade kind of has bad news come out after hours and dumps again. So gotta love it. It's just one of those days, guys. Just one of those days. Other than that, that's pretty much all I got. So red day recap, unfortunately, but manageable red day. And even if I cut the Nkla loss, I'm still only looking at maybe $100 and some loss, not even $200 on both accounts. So manageable considering the green days I've had, but not something you ever want. Of course, it makes you feel crappy and not ideal, but it is what it is. Manage your risk, manage your losses, live to fight another day. The odds are I'll end up cutting the Nkla trade, even though it's a loss, just because of the possibility of more negative news coming out or GM pulling out or whatever. Just makes me nervous now that we're down like this to hold it overnight. Not exciting. So anyway, thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, all that if you haven't already. I appreciate the support very much. I comment back to anybody who comments, so if you got any questions or things you want me to make videos on, let me know in the comments. Tell me if my videos are long and boring. Whatever you got, just let me have it, and I will respond. Even if you comment that I'm an idiot, it still helps the YouTube algorithm and ultimately pushes my video higher, which will make me money. So I'm good with that. Whatever you want to do. So thanks for watching. Peace out.